All right, I really want to do number 3. Number 3 was that problem. It was number 44. Well, it's not the exact problem, but it's that type of problem, number 44 and 5.2, that I think a lot of people struggled with. So I want to make sure we go through it, and so you can see it again. So I give you all this information. Tangent of u is 8/12 in quadrant 3. Sine of u is 12/20 in quadrant 2. First thing we want to do is draw our triangles. So let's draw our u triangle. All right. So we are in quadrant 3. We'll put in u. All right, so tangent is 8/12. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. But I want us to be careful here, and this is kind of why I give this problem. And I've done this to you in the past. I just want you to be aware of it. Remember that these two numbers are actually negative because we're in quadrant 3. Think about it. We're in the negative x, and this is the negative y. All right, so just be aware of that. All right, so, okay. Calculator's a little dusty. All right, so I'm going to find the hypotenuse. We have 8 squared, which is 64, plus 144, 12 squared. We have 208, and that's not a perfect square, but I'm pretty sure that's divisible by 16. It is. Good. So this hypotenuse is going to be 4 root 13. So that's my u triangle. And let's do my v triangle. It's in quadrant 2. Sine is 12/20, so opposite is 12, hypotenuse is 20. All right, so I'm going to find that missing side. So 20 squared is 400. Oops, not squared, my apologies. 400 minus 12 squared, which is 144. We get 256, and 256 is a perfect square. I believe it's 16. Perfect, 16. Now, watch your signs. This is negative because we're in the negative x, so just be careful. All right, once these triangles are laid out, we just have to really plug and chug, but this is part of the problem. This is a big part of the problem. If we don't have these, this is impossible to do. Okay, so let's do it. Cosine of u plus v is equal to, all right, some formula of cosine. Cosine of u, cosine of v, minus sine of u, sine of v. Okay. So cosine of u, I go to u, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I have negative 12 over 4 root 13. All right, I'm not going to worry about rationalizing. Not yet, at least. Cosine of v is negative 16 times 20. So negative 16 over 20. My apologies. Okay, so sine of u is going to be negative 8 over 4 root 13. And sine of v is going to be 12 over 20. All righty. Okay, so we're going to just do some math here. I'm going to use my calculator to help me out. So negative 12 times negative 16, whatever number that is. We have 12 times 16, 192 on the top here, over 80 root 13. I'll worry about rationalizing this at the end, I promise. And then negative times a negative, that's going to be plus. And 8 times 12 is 96. I need a calculator there. 96, 80 root 13. All right. So my top, and 192 plus 96. 288. Nice. 288 over 80 root 13. All right, so now I'm going to rationalize, okay? We can simplify this fraction first. It doesn't matter. We're going to have to simplify it regardless, so I'm just going to simplify it at the end, especially because this is a kind of a heavy problem to do math-wise. All right, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 13. So the top just becomes 288 root 13, and the bottom becomes 80 times 13, 1040. This is a nice, long problem. All right, and then I'm just going to simplify that fraction, right? So 288 divided by 1040. Okay. Obviously, the ones on your exam, the numbers are going to work out a lot better. All right, so this just becomes 18 over 65. So this is 18 root 13. over 65. Cool. All right. Now it's up to you. I kind of like just doing sines and cosines to find tangents. So that's the way I'm going to do it. I am not going to force you to do it any other way, any way that you don't feel comfortable with. So that's the way I'm going to do it. But you could always use the tangent sum formula if you would like. But we already have half of it. So I'm just going to find sine and just go crazy. Great. And it's good practice too. So I'm going to just say sine of u plus v is equal to the sine of u cosine of v plus sine of v cosine of u. Swap the trig functions, keep the SIGN. All right, so sine of u. Like I said, you could cheat from the previous problem there. We get negative 8 over 4 root 13. Cosine of v is negative 16 over 20. Plus sine of v is going to be 12 over 20. Cosine of u is going to be negative 12 over 4 root 13. I don't think it's a hard thing to do. I think it's like 1/2 dozen the other, really, in order to simplify it. And I just actually think the tangents get a little annoying, to be honest. I think this is easier to work with. All right, so 8 times 16, okay? It's going to be positive because they're both negative. 8 times 16 is 128. 128 over 80 root 13. Okay, minus 144 over 80 root 13. Okay, totally fine. 128 minus 144, negative 16. Oh, this is going to kind of work out nice. Negative 16 over 80 root 13. Okay, now we can rationalize here. We can simplify here. If we simplify here, we should get a nice fraction, negative 1/5, okay? And then we can just rationalize. Okay, times 13, times root 13. So I get negative root 13, and then 5 times 13 on the bottom is 65. Whew. Looks good. All right, excuse me. These numbers look great. I don't think sine is that difficult to get as opposed to working with the tangents, finding common denominators, and doing the whole thing. So I just found sine. You can do it the other way, though, and now I'm just going to do sine over cosine. All right? So sine of u plus v over cosine of u plus v is equal to negative root 13 over 65 divided by 18 root 13 over 65. Keep the top fraction. Change the big division to multiplication, and flip the second. 65, 18, root 13. All right. Glorious things happen here. Root 13s cancel, the 65s cancel, and I just get negative 1/18. All right. Love it. Looks great. So, like I said, any way you want to do number 3, part B, if you want to use the tangent formula or you want to find sine. I like finding sine. Because I just think there's going to be work to be done anyways, and I just think finding sine is easier than like remembering that tangent formula. Okay, I'm just going to set up number 4. I want you guys to be able to do number 4, all right? And I kind of wanted you to do it in this order. I wanted you to use the tangent formula instead, but I guess it really doesn't matter after what I just said with the sum and difference. So find it however you want to find it, but I want to set this up for you guys. So secant is negative 3 and is in quadrant 2. All right, secant's annoying, so we're going to change that to cosine is negative 1/3 in quadrant 2. So let's set this up. Okay. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 1 is 8, so we need the square root of 8, which is going to be 2 root 2. All right, and that'll be positive. All right, so that's our triangle. You're going to find all of these. All right, use your double angle formulas. You have a couple of options for cosine, so just be aware of that. You can use whatever one you want for cosine because you have all this information. So whatever your heart desires. I'm going to leave you guys with number 4, though.